September 3rd, the day we took back the video game industry. Oh my god, this has to be good. Oh man.
September the 3rd. Where were you on September the 3rd? Where were you when you first heard the news? Concord has fallen. Ladies and gentlemen, we have witnessed with our very own eyes the most important event in the video game industry in decades.
I don't know about decades, but I think in the last 5 years for sure. Like, Concord failing, I do think is like a massive big deal.
Today, September the 3rd, Sony has announced that its latest title, Concord, will be discontinued and servers will be shut down September the 6th.
Wow.
Mainstream media outlets defending Concord have destroyed their credibility and revealed a glaring
Hard
flaw
to destroy something that doesn't exist, but somehow they've managed to do it.
In the game industry. How can you trust a company who tells you the sky is not blue? We can no longer trust those major companies.
Yep.
The fall of Concord is not cause for celebration. We cannot afford to devolve into a culture that dances on the graves of those who tried and failed. But there is cause for celebration.
There sure is.
To all my fellow gamers out there who let your voices be heard in comment sections and forums, I am proud of you.
That's right.
I beseech you, revel not in the failure of others. The road to a better tomorrow cannot be traveled by tearing each other down, but by helping each other up when we stumble.
That's right. That's why we're playing Wukong, games like Core Keeper, games that are fun, that are enjoyable, abso-fucking-lutely. Yep. That's right. No, we do this.
To the content creators out there who made strong the voice of your people, your fellow gamers,
yes,
I am proud of you.
Thank you.
To those with true journalistic integrity who researched and brought to light the unacceptable, grotesque behavior of those who would masquerade as our game developers, I am proud of you.
Oh, man.
Sony has become a tyrant, a dragon of wealth at all costs. All the gamers out there who stood their ground and let their voices be heard, who united from all around the world, they became a powerful spear. All the content creators out there who brought to light the truth of the situation as it unfolded day to day, they became the blade of the spear that pierced the dragon's heart.
This is so ridiculous. I love it. This is so good. This is so good. And making gaming great again. Yeah, it's people like, the thing is that for the longest time, there's been this idea in gaming that the consumers aren't the ones who decide what video games are. No. What are you thinking? And like now, I think that a lot of the barriers to entry for like, you know, obviously distributing video games, developing games, tools like Unreal 5, I think is a great example. And just in general, like the overall competency of you know, like indie games to be able to like, you know, an indie game nowadays can rival a game that's of a AA or AAA quality. It can easily. And 10 years ago, 15 years ago especially, that really wasn't possible. So now you're seeing this happen, and people don't have to pick the garbage. They don't have to play it. They can just choose to play something instead. Yeah, they have so many more tools. Exactly. Yeah, it's been democratized, which is the way it should have always been.
There is a philosophy that exists in the professional world, something I've learned working in industry, from watching, from listening to the world around me. People love nothing more than watching a tyrant fall. For years.
I think that's why people are happy. I think that's the same thing with Stellar Blade, too. People are really happy when Stellar Blade did well, because it goes to show that I think that even like a person with a passing knowledge, like not really, you know, any sort of like a hyper obsessed person, but just somebody who's paying attention, they could see that it's like, man, it sure seems like a lot of people have it out for this game, right? Like it seems kind of weird that like certain games just receive this like massive amount of like negative criticism for like these things that are not really about the game itself. I think that even like an average person can see that.
Talented, skilled, and deserving artists and developers have been discriminated against.
Yep.
Instead of game companies hiring people for their ability or qualifications, they hire based on the color of someone's skin, their sexual identity, and their political views. For years, the video game industry
has been awful. Like it's actually crazy that people that have been doing this have gaslighted themselves into thinking that they're the good guys. They're like, yeah, we're being racist, but we're doing it for the right reasons, so it's okay. Who thinks this? It's the definition of discrimination? Oh, they are. They've always done this. Yeah. That should be against the law. Well, the problem is like, so this is what happens with people. I'm assuming that there are just simply political opinions that if you express these opinions, you get reported to HR, whereas other political opinions, you don't. And so I think that's probably what happens. And it's like then people start to dislike you and then they push you out slowly. It's like a very type of like, not really soft. Well, it's a soft but overt level of censorship, I would assume is like what's happening. But like I haven't been in one of these companies. I'm just guessing, to be fair.
Bent further and further toward appeasing an extremist radicalized cult raised entirely in an isolated bubble of hyper-reality on the internet.
That's right.
The game industry has bent further and further.
That is, man, I want to go back. This is too good.
Radicalized cult raised entirely in an isolated bubble of hyper-reality on the internet. The game industry has bent further and further, being infested by people who do not care about making a good product,
who
do not understand what a good game is, and who do not care about what really matters.
No, they don't give a shit.
Diversity, inclusivity, equity. I've said it before and I will say it again. Those things matter. They're important. But the people who are pushing those concepts into the public space lack the maturity, self-awareness, and understanding of social responsibility to do it correctly.
Well, it's because they're morons. That's the reason why. Is like we never had diversity problems with video games back in the day. There was never problems with this. These are the people that had problems and came into the video games and brought their problems with them. See, this is the thing, right? Is like they act like we nailed them up to the cross. No, you brought the cross in here. Everybody else, everything was going just fine. Everybody enjoyed games. Things were fine. You had different female characters. You had male characters. You had black characters, white characters. It was not really a factor. It's not really that's not the point of the game. And then these people who come in who are fucking weirdos, they're the ones that are having all these problems. They're the ones that have all these issues. That's what happens. And you know what the real problem is? That these people were the problems. It's these types of people. And it's exactly what he was saying. It's the maturity, the ability to like actually discuss things like a normal person. Like I guarantee you that like if you were around the kind of people that try to push this stuff in games, you would be so unhappy. Because they're probably obnoxious. They're so obnoxious. Was Samus a girl? I heard that Metroid was a girl too. Nobody cared. Good games were good games. Yeah, it's not logical thinking people. Yeah, exactly.
Radicalized extremists are so focused on their own egos, they do not realize the damage they have caused to our culture. Never before in the past decades has there been a greater...
I think that's a good point, is that I think they've set this back a lot, because like now anytime you see a character that's like not, of a default, the default white male character, people go crazy with like DEI shit. It's actually like very rare whenever it doesn't happen. But like, I actually think it's this, I actually don't think it's the skin color as much. I don't think the skin color really matters. I think it's actually like an attitude and a culture that is like usually attached to that. So like what I mean by this is that you look at the Space Marine 2 trailer And I've used this like 5 different examples, right? So like you guys are probably fucking tired of hearing this. But like there's a white guy, an Asian guy, and a black guy, and they're talking about how they're going to beat back some sort of fucking, how they're going to beat the Tyranids or something. Nobody's talking about this being woke, right? Nobody cares about this because it's about the games being like masculine and the games being authentic. And I think that what you get now is a bunch of millennials on 7 different antidepressants, 3 different self-diagnosed mental disorders that know more about Harry Potter than the real world. And they hate Harry Potter too because of J.K. Rowling. And it's the thing that they know the most about, fucking hate it, right? And they're the ones, and they have like this completely warped view on reality. Like it's like it's. I'm trying to think of like a good way to look at it. It's like I think hyper reality is the way that he explained it, and I think that's probably pretty accurate. But they live in like this like weird distorted reality that other normal people don't live in and don't exist in. So like when they make games that reflect this like weird this like reality distortion thing they have, these games don't resonate with anybody else other than other weird people. It started with Gen Z. No, it didn't. It's millennials that did this. No, it's like people my age. 100% my fault. Absolutely my fault. Like people that I went to school with are the ones that are causing this to happen.
Hatred, fear, and resentment towards minority groups, which they think they are empowering.
Yep.
Instead, they are framing marginalized groups as villains and painting targets on their backs. And this has happened because of the incompetent implementation of supposed diversity in media. We cannot afford...
Well, it's because these people don't know what real diversity is. They don't understand what real diversity is. These are people probably that grew up in gated communities. They went to like a 95% white high school. Like, you know, they had like one black friend that every time that, you know, that the friend gets in the car, they turn on hip hop. Like they don't understand actual diversity, right? They don't understand how to like actually like interact with a minority, right? Or how to be around the minority, like how to be around a minority. Like what the fuck are you even talking about? His name's this Jim. Just go fucking talk to him, you freak. It's so weird, man. No social skills. Yes, exactly. And like this is basically what's happened is that we've had the social rules of the world be dictated by people that have no social skills. So everything is catered down to the lowest common denominator. So you can't have any authenticity, any genuine moments, any, real investment, because everything needs to be counterbalanced with some degree of brevity because of the insecurity of the writers. It's so lame. Yeah, we have Khadgar in a wheelchair. Yeah, exactly. It's so fucking ironic that these people are more racist than people that would actually identify as racist. I think that it's an entire subculture that they live inside of, and they actually are, like, it's not even about, like, any sort of gender or race or anything like that. It's about this subculture and the values of this subculture. Like, once you view the subculture as a religion, like any sort of like a cult, I think a lot of it makes a lot more sense because a lot of the things that different cults do, they behave the same way. Real racists seem less racist to me. Well, these people are more racist, I think, in some cases because they're trying not to be, so they think that it's okay. Whereas real racist people at least try to talk around it, you know?
To go back to a time...
It's like the interview where the white people thought that black people didn't, like, well, how could you have... Well, black people, they don't know where the DMV is. They don't know how to use the internet. What? That was painful. What? They don't have data on there. They can't use phones. It's crazy. Who thinks that? Too many people. You know who thinks that? the people that are trying to get you fired for not thinking that.
Media.
Yeah.
We cannot afford to go back to a time
we got
when
it on
hatred
YouTube,
and fear was allowed to rule our hearts and minds. No more. To you radicalized extremists, receiving millions of dollars to produce products for stroking your own egos instead of serving the gamers, I say to you, no more.
That's right.
To you tyrants who fund this radicalized movement, who focus on pandering, instead of creating something of value, I say to you, no more.
I think the truth is, like, it's really funny because, like, they're going to keep making games like this. Here's what I think happened. I think that a lot of games like Concord, like, I would say, like, woke stuff was, like, way more popular in, like, 2018 to, like, 2022. Would you guys agree with that? Yeah, right? And so, like, you see a lot of games that were probably, like, it's dying. Yeah, I think it is dying out a lot. And, or at least, like, in some cases, right? People are fed up now. Yeah. And so I think that what happened is that these games were conceptualized around then, and, like, the culture kind of changed, and now people are less accepting of it. That's what I think kind of happened. There's been a definite backlash against wokish stuff. Yeah, I think for sure.
To you developers who would dare to call my fellow gamers, my people, talentless freaks,
I remember this.
I say to you, no more.
I say to you, so, you know what somebody needs to do? They need to send that person an application to DoorDash. Because they're looking for a new job right now. Like, what are they going to do? Maybe they can start streaming. The Asmongold Watcher? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, send them an application for DoorDash. Do you think DEI in some form is needed? Usually no. Not really. I mean, I think that things like that happen naturally when you just have people that are able to interact with each other with, like, no real boundaries. Like, I don't know about you guys, but, like, any time that I was like any like, for example, like a WoW guild meetup or something like that, I see in like a BlizzCon, right? You go back, you look at, like, WoW guild meetups at BlizzCons. Every single one of them is diverse. Every single one. So, like, and, like, how many of you guys, when you played Xbox Live, you were playing with people that were, like, just different races or from different countries? They're all like that. So if you just allow people to interact naturally, this will happen. And it will also not happen in some circumstances, right? It will. Like, there will be groups of people that are like, oh, we only want white people, like, we're racist. Like, yeah, sure, like, it's whatever, right? But, like, that's not really a norm.
Rejoice. Celebrate, my fellow gamers, for today you have made history. Today, we tear down a tyrant. Let this be a warning.
That's right.
To all the AAA development studios and publishers out there. The balance of power has shifted. There is no amount of money you can pour...
I think it's not even the balance's power have shifted. I think it's been realized. I think gamers now realize that if you collectively get together and enough people don't want something, they can actually change the course and the outcome of a game. Because this absolutely can happen. And I think it's been proven time and time again. It took long enough? Yeah, it did. The problem with talking about woke stuff as online is there's legit bigots, and it feels weird to share a side with them personally. It doesn't feel weird to me. Like, the leftists feel weird sharing a side with people that were, like, communists that would kill a bunch of people? No. Because everybody knows there's a big difference. Just because somebody likes socialism doesn't mean that they like democratic national socialism like in Nazi Germany. Of course not. Like, of course that's not the way that people think. That's silly. Everybody knows that. It's just, and this is the problem, right? Is like these people, like, this is the dishonest type of reality that people live in. Like what he's saying. Like this isn't the way normal people think. It's just intellectual dishonesty. Yeah, that's not how it is. Nuance is wild. Well, people don't want nuance because if you add nuance, then they can, they lose power. Sometimes chat is quite bigoted. Of course it is. There's 30,000 people watching the channel. Do you really think that there's not what do you think the odds are that there's going to be somebody who's racist in here? 100%. Absolutely. So what? Okay. Oh. Wow.
To marketing, to hide the flaws of a product created by the wrong people with the wrong intentions. Mm-hmm. The balance of power has shifted in a way that you cannot control.
Thank God.
Your audience has a voice. They have power, and they are your equals. September the 3rd.
Well, they're not the equals. They're actually they're the ones that make the decision. It's the customer's always right. Like you can say like the audience is sexist or whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you're still going to be looking for a new job when your product doesn't sell. Like that's it. Like there's a definite like finality of it.
Remember this. Let it be heard. All across the world, today is the day we took back the video game industry.
I hope so.
20 developers or publishers out there who would dare to call my fellow gamers my people. Talentless freaks.
Yep.
Do this at your own peril.
Gamers
because
rise
I will
up.
not stand idly by and let you demean my people. Lastly,
this is so good.
To Sony, you have
so
earned
dramatic,
some respect by issuing full refunds to all the paying customers of Concord.
That's actually a really good point. Sony did pull a really big W there. They actually, as I said, they just totally pulled the plug and they gave everybody their money back. They didn't try to we're going to try to drag you along and everything like this. No, they just straight up pulled the plug and said, nope, we're going to give you your money back. Sorry about that. Yep, my bad. Oops. Because you think about it, right? That's huge.
This is the best course of action you could have taken. Were I to give you a review on your performance in this situation,
it's an A.
I would say 7 out of 10.
I'd say it's an A.
Good.
Good one. Good one. Yeah, real good one. Japan just fuck around with DEI stuff. Well, I mean, maybe I'm an extreme minority. I don't really care that Concord wasn't good. Another DEI game flopped. Oh, well. I think that it really matters a lot. This is it. I loved how dramatic this was and how crazy. This was great. I do think it's unironically a gamer. It's a gamer's rise up shit. Because I think people and players are starting to realize that collectively, if they can get together, if enough people can get together, they can determine the direction of whether a game is successful or not. And I think you saw that with things like Helldivers in positive ways, same with Pow World and also with Wukong. But you're also seeing it in negative ways, like with things like Dustborn or with Concord or with maybe a handful. The funny thing is I can't even remember the other names, right? Because they're so dead. So yeah, next is Ubisoft. I'll link this guy's channel. This guy is great. I fucking love this. And I think a lot of people, again, have been, what's the word for it? They've been shamed into thinking that their opinion isn't valid as a customer. And I think that now you've seen so much people speaking out against it that people don't feel like that they have that shame anymore. Because I think that a lot of people really underestimate the power of public pressure and the power of public consensus pressure. And I think that's really what happens to a lot of people is they get trapped in that and they don't want to go outside of that box because they're afraid they could get in trouble or something bad could happen to them or whatever, right? Why do you care about this? So sick of the gaslighting? Well, the thing is, at the end of the day, the reason why I care about it is that I think a bunch of weird, annoying, freakish people with no social skills and people that are fucking losers have taken over games, and they write games like losers. They write the games for losers. They're not interesting. They're fucking boring. The characters aren't charismatic. Everything about the stories are garbage. They're just unlikable people. They make unlikable characters. There's unlikable gameplay. There's nothing good about them. And so why do I care about it? It's like, well, if somebody came into your house and started shitting on your floor, and then you say, get out of the house, and you say, well, why? Why do you care about this? Well, because you came into my fucking house.